Daily Show contributor Mike Yard. Also joining us, Democratic Congressman from Texas, Joaquin Castro. He led the White House Office of Faith-Based Partnerships during President Obama's first term. Former Pastor-in-Chief Joshua DuBois. And she's the Assistant Professor of Political Science at Fordham University, Christina Greer. Christina, good to see you again. Okay. So we all know why we're here to talk about this horrible thing today, and it really struck me that how clear this guy was about what his intentions were. To me, this was not even a hate crime. I call it racial terrorism.
Yep.
I mean, that's what.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's so hard? Like, when I watch all that Fox News stuff trying to make it about religion, and by the way, if you're killing religious people, that's a horrible thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we have no illusions about that, but it's clearly a racial thing. Pastor, well, why do you think it's so hard for people to make it about race?
Because if people allow themselves to make it about race, then they are acknowledging that we have some racial challenges that we haven't solved in this country, and people don't want to acknowledge that. We'd rather say it's the lone gunman syndrome or it's just about his mental health, as opposed to pointing to a broader culture of division and too often of hate that feeds into stuff like this. That's why people don't want to admit it, because it sometimes points back to things they don't want to point back to.
Well, and
So,
also,
go ahead.
I think, Larry, it's hard for people to talk about race and racism in the present tense, because I think it's something that the
better to
country...
think like it happened
Right,
a
we
long
often
time
talk
ago,
about
right?
it in the past because I think the country wants to feel like we've moved on from it. And I think that sometimes makes it difficult.
I think. Do you think they feel because we have Obama we're post-racial? I mean, we're not even post-Rachel these days, right?
Well, the thing is, a lot of people want to say it's just a hate crime, but it's both, right?
Yeah.
The definition of domestic terrorism is if you are instilling fear in a particular group of people based on political, religious, or ideological means. He did that, right? The church is the last safe haven for so many people, especially African Americans, because this country in the past few months has shown us that we can't be in our homes, we can't be in our cars, we can't be in parks, we can't be on the street, we can't have furtive movements, now we can't be in pools, and so the last place was the church, right? And so if someone is coming into the sacred space...
It really is the part of it that offended me the most, was people, they're so helpless in a church, their guards are down, I mean, they're praying or whatever. Mike, I mean, to me, it seems like that resonated with me, I think, the most out of all of this.
Well, I think that was the point of it, though. You know, that's the whole point of terrorism, to let you know. And it's historical in America. That's what they did. You know, you want to make people feel like, you know, we don't want you here, and if you think you're going to hide, we'll get you wherever you feel safest. And, of course, people are in church feeling that's where they're the safest. Nobody's going to come into church and do something like that. And so that's the point. Let's hit them where they think that we won't do it, so they know, listen, we mean business.
And here's the thing, it's not only that they felt safe there, they were actually welcoming of new people there, right?
Well, the guy was there.
He was there. It was, come on in. There's a phrase in the AME church, and this was an AME church, that they say the doors of the church are open. And so it not only did they feel protected, but they were asking for people and extending sort of a generous welcome, and this is the response that they got.
But we also have to remember, too, it's like this isn't just a murder of 9 people. This is also an assassination of a U.S. elected official.
That's true. That's a good point.
Right? And so we need to use real language, right? Because this man, he's not a boy, he's 21 years old.
Correct.
It is premeditated. We cannot just brush it off, oh, he had mental illness. I am tired of sort of that being the excuse of Adam Lanza, and whenever boys behave badly, we do that. That is not the case here. It is an assassination of a U.S. elected official and 8 congregants. And if it's about men raping women, 6 of those individuals were women, so the logic does not hold.
Well, that's lynch language.
That's the same.
That's old school lynch language.
Of course, of course.
You know, let's get them. Black man. You know, black man is raping our women, and so people go, oh, they're raping our women. Where's the evidence of this? You're just saying shit. You know what I mean? You're just pulling out of your ass.
The whole point was you didn't need evidence. But I want to go back to the mental illness thing, because some people say you have to be sick to do this. I think you also can be an evil mother to do it too.
Well, you could be, but also,
sorry, Pastor. I don't mean to say that, but you know what I'm talking about.
Sorry, man. It's all right.
I'm very upset about this because I like making that clear distinction. You know.
Well, but I think mental illness is obviously a very real thing.
And the mental illness can be fueled by racism
but
too.
And this is just a theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but it also could set the table to be more susceptible to the messages that are in our culture. Maybe this guy did have some problems, but when he's inundated with tweets and posts and sort of media messages and cultural messages about hating black people and dehumanizing this young girl in McKinney, Texas, and so on and so forth, maybe it's easier to seep in if he is facing a mental illness, and so it could create a context for that.
Well, I think it's important to note, I know that the president today talked about gun violence, but it's not just about guns and it's not just about mental illness. This was a form of domestic terrorism, and we should view it that way.
That's right.
That's right.
I agree. Is there what message do you think the government can send other than the president coming out and saying it's bad? In this type of situation.
I mean, I think that there's got to be a message of reconciliation. All of these videos that we've seen of police brutality with community members. I mean, we're going to see a lot more of this stuff, and I really feel like we have gotten to the point where there needs to be a kind of reconciliation, a racial reconciliation, and a reconciliation between police and community.
Sure. Yeah, but before reconciliation, we need A, justice, and B, I think one of the minor things that South Carolina could do is the governor and the 2 Republican senators can take the Confederate flag off of the Capitol.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
I agree completely. In fact, you know what? I couldn't agree more. I want to show you, I think the American flag is at half mast, half staff? What is the correct term? And the Confederate flag was still flying there. Take that flag down, for Christ's sakes. I mean, at this point, the symbol of that flag is a symbol of terrorism for people who were terrorized during that time. I'm sorry, there's no reason to have it.
Thomas recognizes that it's a symbol of terrorism.
That's when you know it's bad.
Right, that's when it's really bad.
Well, my thing is that
but especially in light of events like this, to me, that's going along. Take it down now everywhere, because that's what it represents to people that went through those things.
But that's where I feel like we're not being honest about the situation. Like, we don't want to have the real conversation about race. And it's hard for me to take a governor seriously when she says, oh, I don't understand what would make somebody do this. And then your Capitol is flying a symbol of racism and separation and segregation. You're not having an intellectually honest conversation.
I think racism trumps nostalgia.
Exactly.
Well,
it should always trump that, right?
It speaks to the fact that people are still not grappling with and dealing with this stuff that happened so long ago. I mean, if you think that racism is in the past, then leave the flag in the past as well. I mean, why are we still holding on to a flag?
How is this not a racial incident? You're trying to tell me that a 21-year-old white kid drove white man drove from his home in South Carolina past, how many churches are in the South? Everywhere, every block. And he drove past all these churches to this particular church to shoot black people to say he hates Christianity. That doesn't even make sense.
No, it doesn't. The other thing I don't understand.
In a state that's 85% Christian.
South Carolina doesn't. Go ahead. South Carolina, I think, is one of 5 states that doesn't have a hate crimes law. I think that's significant.
Well,
in this
it's South
case,
Carolina.
Well, South Carolina also, they have of their 6 or of their 7 congressmen, 6 are Republican. They've gerrymandered the state quite well so that they could bust up black districts, strong black districts. And the only Democrat they have happens to be African-American,
Christina, I want to ask you this, too. To me, I mean, we used to joke about this, Mike, that racism's gone when all the old races are gone. But this guy's 21 years old. That's worrisome to me. Like, I felt that's younger generation. And some of the language he used, when I said that's lynch language, that's very concerning to me. Raping women and all that stuff.
I don't think
that
you can blame social media. I think that's a family
thing. You think it's social media?
That's his family feeding them that every day.
But you find communities, but you can always find communities on social media. But this is also where parents need to step up, right? If your son
his father gave him a gun.
Your father gave you.
That's why I say
if you have mental illness, why is your father buying you a .45 caliber gun for your 21st birthday, right? But also, it's like if you're wearing a badge, I don't know where you got it.
Okay, hold that. Let's talk about that. We'll be right back, and we're going to talk about more.